Hello all, welcome to this video lecture on the title An Introduction to the Poem The Renegade. This is Dr. K.Prabha, Assistant Professor, PG and Research Department of English, Sitalakshmi Ramaswamy College, Trichy. So in this slide we are going to see some of the details about the writer. David Diop is the writer of this powerful poem, The Renegade. So the title itself is very powerful and the poem that explores the complexities of identity loss and the legacy of colonialism in Africa. Diab was born in France to Senegalese parents and he has access to both the countries, the France and Senegal. So naturally he has got the experiences, that is the cultural and the linguistic influences of both the countries. He was a leading writer in the 20th century and his voice raises against the colonialism in Africa. And many of his writings explored the complex and sensitive issues related to colonialism. As a poet and a critic, he critically raised his voice against colonialism and its impact in Africa and other countries. He is one of the leading figure in the Negritude movement, which is an anti-colonial political movement started by the students of Caribbean countries in the late 1930s to protest against the colonial impact and the colonialism in the Africa. The title, The Renegade, suggests a theme of rebellion or deviation from expected norms. So the poem appears to be a critic for someone who adopts a westernist culture, forgetting the roots and principles of his or her own native culture. And the poem seems to address the internal conflict and the loneliness experienced by the individuals who forsakes their identity for the sake of perceived societal acceptance or advancement. So look at the first line of the poem. My brother, you flash your teeth in response to every hypocrisy. Here, the writer addresses the people, the readers, as his own brother who just smile for the hypocrisies, for the insults they are experiencing in the past. And in the second line, my brother with gold rimmed glasses. Here he is talking about how the lifestyle of the people changed because of the intervention of the Westernizers. And you give your master a blue-eyed faithful look. And this line says that the people of Africa or very loyal to the Westerners. They consider them as masters and they are very loyal to them. But in turn, they get nothing. And in the fourth line, he also pitied for the listeners and for the readers. He says that, my poor brother in immaculate evening dress. Look at how the native people changed their dressing sense. They are in a very clean and tidy evening dress, but still their mind is not clean. It is full of dirty and ugly because they just forget the roots and the importance of their culture, and they are greatly influenced by the Westerners culture, Westerners outfits, Westerners food habits. And in the next line, screaming and whispering and pleading in the parlors of condescension. Here he criticizes the people for neglecting the roots and for giving importance to the Westerners' influences and the advancement. And at last he says that we pity you. The outsiders, the others in the rest of the world, they are feeling very bad for the condition of the people in Africa. And he is criticizing the external environment of Africa in this line. Your country's burning sun is nothing but a shadow. Here he says that the whole country is bright, but the sun is not bright, it is burning, which means the whole country is in a very tensionable situation and your serene civilized bro. In this line he says that you seem to be civilized, you seem to be disciplined, but all these are the results of the Westerners' influence and the impact of colonization. And the next line, the thought of your grandmother's hut. Now he is once again inviting the people to look back at the past. You look back how your ancestors lived in the hut. They lived a very simple life, yet they are very happy in their own country. You to live in a very big house and you are changing continuously, but you are not happy, and bring blushes to a face that is bleached. And in this line, he says that how people are changing or adapting their lifestyle because of the influence of the westernizers. Whenever you think about your grandmother, it brings blushes to your face, but your face has lost its nativity, it has lost its identity because your face is bleached. It is clean now. So moving to the next slide, we see here the last four lines of the poem. Here he is strongly criticizing the humiliation and the bad condition of people in Africa in the past. Look at the line. By years of humiliation and bad consigns, and while you trample on the bitter red soil of Africa. We know that Africa is rich in resources. It has abundant resources like minerals, diamonds, trees, forests, and other things. But look at the color of the soil. It is red. But what is the reason for the red color? It is because of the result of bitterness and the bitter experiences the people are experiencing in the country because of colonization and because of the humiliation that is continuously happening in the country to the native people who have forgotten their roots. Let these words of anguish keep time with your restless step. So he is giving hope to the people of Africa to continue their anger, to keep them restless, and to fight against the colonizers. And he is very sorry for his state of loneliness, and he says that, oh, I am so lonely here. So in the country where the writer is living, and he is in a very pitiable condition, he is not able to help his people, but he is helping the people by writing poems like this and giving them a sense of confidence in their mind to fight against colonialism and its impact in Africa. So we are moving back to the next section of the poem. Here I have given some of the important themes handled by the writer in the poem. So the first one is identity. And this poem is a perfect example to find that how loss of identity happened in Africa and how this cultural identity has become a conflict between the heritage and the adaptation of external or the Western values. And the writer has used phrases like grandmother's hut and references to the African landscapes to highlight the struggle of the people within their cultural identity. And the next theme is colonialism. Yes, the poem criticizes the impact of colonialism, portraying a character or the people who are being colonized or being colonized, and they adopts a submissive role towards the colonizers, and they have no other goal to escape from the Westerners. And the next theme is sense of loss and grief. Yes, they are lonely and they experience this loneliness. Either it may be an emotional loneliness or a physical loneliness, but there is always a clash, there is always a pain within the minds of the people, the native people. The last theme is resilience and resistance. So here he says that the people are mourning the loss of the shared history and culture, and they know it is very painful for them, but they are disconnected from the roots. So he is suggesting the people to connect once again with the ancestors, with the tradition, and with the roots. Coming back to the tone of the poem. The tone of the poem is critical and lamenting, And the poet uses a very strong and poignant language to express disapproval and sadness towards the subject of the poem. And here the tone is accusatory, and he accuses the people, and he uses the phrases like hypocrisy, fateful look, and years of humiliation. Very strong phrases to explore the present condition of the people in Africa. And the mood of the poem is somber and reflective. There is a sense of melancholy throughout, and it is amplified by the repeated expression of loneliness and vivid imageries used in the poem. The mood is further intensified by the portrayal of the African landscape as a mere shadow and the individual's face being bleached by years of humiliation. Overall, the poem evokes a feeling of sorrow and regret for the personal and cultural losses incurred by the individual. The poem is rich in vivid imagery that conveys the emotional and cultural conflict within the context. Here are some of the symbols used here to convey the emotions. First one is flash your teeth. So here this imagery suggests a forced or insincere smile that possibly portraying the result of colonialism, and that is a response to the societal expectation. The next one is gold rimmed glasses. So the use of gold rimmed glasses conjures an image of opulence and perhaps a willingness to adapt the perspective and the values of a wealthier society to show them very powerful. And the next one is the blue-eyed faithful look. This phrase employs a vivid imagery to depict a submissive and obedient person, emphasizing the adoption of foreign ideals and principles. Especially the native people seems to be very submissive in front of the Westerners. The next one is burning sun. So this imagery diminishes the significance of the African environment, suggesting that the colonized person views their own cultural surroundings as secondary or inferior. The next symbolism here is bitter red soil of Africa. So the use of color and the word bitter in relation to the African soil implies a complex and challenging relationship with the homeland, possibly reflecting the internal struggle faced by the individual. The last one, so lonely here. And the word loneliness emphasizes the emotional isolation experienced by the individual, creating a poignant image of internal solitude. So we are moving to the last section of the poem, that is the some of the figures of speech used by the writer in the poem, which are metaphor, simile, and repetition is also used in the poem. So look at the metaphor here. So the word serene civilized Tibro. This metaphorical phrase suggests a composed and seemingly refined exterior quality of the people, which is an ironic contrast which indicates a false that may be not a real one, but it is but it is a result of internal conflict. And the gold rimmed glasses used here is a metaphor which symbolizes the allure and influence of the wealth and power, implying a distorted view of the world shaped by materialistic matters. And the simile here, face that is bleached. So the simile brings blushes to your face, that compares the emotional reaction to be um, get or acquired by the people when they think about the grandmother's hut. They'll start blushing, but it suggests a sense of shame and embarrassment associated with one's cultural roots. The word lonely and lonely is repeated here in the poem to emphasize the loneliness, the depth of loneliness the writer and the people have experienced in the past. Thank you so much for listening.